Hey guys, you're watching Dinner Talks on Cache Media. My name is TJ Maxwell, and tonight we're talking about discrimination within the LGBT community. Stay tuned.
This wine creeps up on you, box mine does that.
So I'd like to welcome you guys all to this episode. I feel that this is such an important topic, especially that there's a lot of misconceptions out there floating about the LGBTQ plus community members. Yeah. So I want to ask this: is there blatant discrimination within the community?
Yeah. Yes. I think we can all say that in unison.
Yeah. Why? You want to go further with that?
I've noticed a lot of as being a lesbian, I've noticed a lot of discrimination towards not so much like myself. I think more so when I was more femme presenting, I had some discrimination against me. Like I was too pretty to be gay, or it was like a shame if I was gay because then I was a waste, which I thought was always so ridiculous.
It's a weird backwards.
So now that I feel like I'm more androgynous presenting, I get less discrimination. I have more acceptance within the community, which I think is ridiculous because I'm the same person I was before. I just look a little different.
Yeah.
But I can't speak from experience about bisexual and pansexual women that get a ton of discrimination within especially the lesbian community. Like I have some people, some friends that they just will not date bisexual women because they're so worried about getting dumped and then for a guy you're gonna be fine. Statistically there are probably more straight men available than there are lesbians or bisexual women, so
and who knows, maybe those guys are bisexual themselves as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I just think that it's I think people naturally jump to conclusions about how people should present or how they should interact, and I think that does not stop within the LGBTQ community at all.
So why is there so much discourse among the community members, among the community, yet outside of the scope, we're all preaching equality? Isn't that a bit of an oxymoron?
I think people within the community preach equality, but they almost want to just set it on everyone outside of the community because they aren't within. So they think, how dare you not accept us? How dare you don't think we're equals? How dare you think we should pick a side or whatnot? And then within, they're like, well, I don't date certain genders, I don't date certain races, I don't date certain sexualities. And they think because they're a minority that they are entitled to have certain standards.
Yeah.
Exempt.
And exempt certain people, which is just,
it's nuts. So yeah, because I see it all the time. It's no femmes, no Asians, no this, no that. I was all right, so pretty much no humans for you then. Just ridiculous.
Yeah. Keep having a list of all the things you don't want. Who is left?
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
Just body shaming, race shaming, sexuality shaming.
Yeah.
Essentially, if someone's not at their level, then they almost don't want to associate with them.
Yeah.
And I think it's dangerous that people always hide that with a preference. They'll say it's a preference, I don't want to get to know you. You know what I mean? And I think that's a really dangerous thing to say. Is put a whole group of people in a preference and say, not for me. I can't imagine being oh, this whole race, just not for me. You mean millions and millions of people just not for you because of the color of the skin, because of the way they look. It's crazy. When I was in the dating scene, I get that all the time. That people will be oh, I'm not into Asians, but then I don't specifically put that I'm Asian in my bio. I'm mixed race. I'll put I'm mixed race, and then I'd hit people up and we'd exchange photos and be really into me. Oh, you're so hot. It's literally the whole 9 yards. They've seen everything, and then we go to meet up and then they'll be oh, hey, what's your mix? And then it's oh, well, I'm part Asian, and then it's automatic block. But it's it wasn't a problem when you thought I was maybe Latino or any other race or just white. You know what I mean? And then it's a problem, and then that's I think that's what the issue is.
Oh yeah.
Where do you all think that these archetypes of, sort of stereotypical queer representation come from? Not being femme enough if you're a lesbian, or not being, I don't know, just either you're too gay or not gay enough, or, I don't know, I find it really interesting. Where do you think these archetypes come from within your own?
Media, I think it comes from within as well. So much people are just insecure and they just haven't found their self-confidence, or people just have a block
to be free into who they are. I feel like, I don't know, when's the last time anyone actually had like a true date or a true meeting with someone where you actually like got to know each other and you actually met up after, whether just getting blocked or not having a chance to get to know that person again, or even just being friends. You know, people make it all about like sexualism, and I think that's so wrong in our community. It's just, and I think it just comes from like the normal media straight community. I think that's just where it formally began, you know, because if you look at people back in the day in like the 80s and 90s, it wasn't really like, maybe in the 80s I would say, I'm not sure about the 90s, but like people were more, you know, respectful, I would say, not so like sexualizing how they look or everything.
Our like movie representation of queer people does not help at all. I think that like if you look at any queer film, most of the time like everybody's absolutely gorgeous and stunning, and that does not necessarily translate to real life. So I think that because we have this depiction of like what it is to be queer, which means like you have to be either edgy or alternative, you have to be like tall and gorgeous,
trendy,
you have
drama
to
club.
yeah, you have to like meet this certain criteria, and that's just like because the media is like promoting this. And then within our own community, like I know I'm guilty of it. I won't want to put a good picture of like a bad picture of me up because I want to look a certain way. And I don't know why I feel that pressure.
I almost feel like within the community, there are stereotypes. And I almost feel like they came from back when you didn't have social media and you couldn't say you were gay, you were on gay dating apps. And you had to almost project that without walking into a crowd and saying, hey, I'm gay, because back then it was different. So you gotta look a certain way just to kind of let people know under the radar. And then I think over time, those pick up, and it was a way of communicating without communicating. And so now, if you don't fit those stereotypes, you almost don't feel like you are truly gay. And that's just from personal experience and seeing it, you know, for the longest time when I first came out. I was always asked, well, are you straight or are you bi? If I said I was a lesbian, people are like, no, you're just confused, honey, it's okay. And this is in the own community.
or they're shocked or whatever.
They're like, but you're too pretty to be gay. And I'm like, I'm not gay because girls are ugly.
Yeah.
So on
answer.
that note, what are some of your personal experiences with discrimination that you feel is important to share?
I briefly touched on this like in the beginning when I was talking about it, but when I had long hair and wore much more makeup than I do now, I would go to the gay bar here in Edmonton, and I remember specifically one time I walked in and I got pushed by these women, and they just shoved me, and they're like, what are you doing in our bar?
Our bar.
I'm like, I belong in your bar.
Yeah.
My wife at the time, I was like, this is my wife. I'm super gay. I married a woman. What, like, how much gayer
What do
can
you
I
want
get?
from me? Like,
Yeah, I just always have to almost prove yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Who
was like,
do
do
I
just,
have
like,
to explain to you?
Like, what am I supposed, like,
You know?
what am I supposed to do right now?
I'm
Just call
with
him
my
San
partner and
Francisco.
my friends,
Yeah, go
and
jump
that's
around
the
the
people
party.
who I'm with. Look at who you're with.
Yeah.
You know, don't just quickly assume or judge others.
So going,
Especially at a place that is supposed to be the most inclusive space that you could possibly go, and yet I'm getting discriminated against by people that are supposed to be supporting and helping and lifting you up and looking out for one another.
I just gave up on trying to prove myself. I thought, you know, if you're gonna question me, then I'm not gonna talk to you, and you're not worth my time. And if you're upset at that, then that's your own issue. I don't care. I was tired of proving myself, and I never had the phase that a lot of gay people go through, where they try to fit the stereotypes, because wasn't who I was.
As you shouldn't define stereotypes.
Yeah, and I think now, because I've been in the community long enough, people know now. And I also feel like people are starting to just be themselves and not feel the need to fit the stereotypes. But yeah, I think that's mostly the only discrimination I've faced within the community is because of my how feminine I am. And
so it's like societal pressure.
yeah, and I know
like
for a long
fitness
time I
and
got really, you get upset because people, they don't approach you or if they do, they're really rude because they want to know if you're there with your boyfriend or if you're there, you know, if you're bisexual. And I'm like, you know, and it just sucks. Then you feel like, oh, maybe I gotta go buy more plaid, or maybe I gotta stamp gay across my forehead. But then, you know, you just don't have to. But it does suck for a while when you're just trying to figure out who you are, and the community that's supposed to accept everyone just pushes you out because you don't fit their molds.
It's interesting you said that, because like I noticed that some individuals out there, it's like when you see them, okay, this is gonna sound so weird, but I'm trying to word it in a way that makes sense, that when you see them, it's like you see a gay pride flag right from jump. It's like, oh, I could, like, you're gay, right? You're like, yeah, you didn't notice? Yet they have like a whole gay pride tattoo here and everything, which is cool and everything. But at the same time, it's like, that's a forced identifier that you're putting onto yourself. Like, why can't you just be yourself?
I think some people just feel like they can't be themselves. I mean, like, I had a really nice coming out, so I didn't feel the need to like blatantly, like, well, I wanted to shout from the rooftops I was gay once I realized, because I was so excited. But I think that, and I'm gonna challenge you here, I think that's discrimination within the community.
Yeah, it is.
Because how somebody is identifying and like choosing to present themselves is definitely their choice. If someone wants to have like rainbows painted all over their bodies, that's like, what's the issue with that?
I think it's like a little less adopting a stereotype of being, hey, I'm gay, look at my gay tats. I feel like people just, you know, once they figure out who they are, they get excited about it, and so their sexuality almost defines them, which is fine. Some people, it's like their, you know, their job defines them, or their sexuality defines them, or their clothes define them. And I feel like, so a lot of people in the queer community, you walk in and they have rainbows all over their house. It's like everything's very queer, and you know, even if it's a little tacky, that's who they feel they are. And yeah, if it makes them feel good to just constantly shout it from the rooftops, then yeah, it's probably so they feel, you know, they want everyone to know.
And you're not hiding, that you're really showing who you are. And I think people also go through different phases of both sort of like how they want people to perceive them and self-acceptance. So if you are someone who's like just come out, or even if that's like who you were in, I don't know, in the 70s when you were just like fighting to have gay acceptance and gay equality, maybe that's like a thing you fought for, and it's like, you know, that's what you did in your personal time, it's what you lobbied for, it's what you know, if you're an activist for it, you're an exactly, like maybe it's like it is a part of your identity and that is what you want to project because this is what you fought for. Yeah, I think that like everyone goes through phases of self-acceptance, and if that's like, I don't know, if you're just coming out, maybe it's important to like show people that, yeah, I'm gay and I'm not gonna not be gay in your face just to make you feel comfortable.
It's like that meme they have, and it's this, and it says, oh, my sexuality doesn't define me, and then it says during Pride Month, move, I'm gay.
Yeah.
And I feel like as much as we don't want our sexuality to define us, you just can't help it because it's who you are.
It also feels like it's something that we should still like scream from the rafters because it is still something that like people like will like make comments or will look at you differently. So I feel like because like we're not there yet where we can't just like openly be ourselves, like where you can't just like wear makeup and look like your fabulous self without getting shit on, like we're not there yet.
And I also think that like it is kind of important as a counterpoint as well to maybe be that loud, because what if no one else has someone they can talk to about that stuff and they see this person that's like really proudly being who they are, and that I bet you that person who's being really loud and proud would feel like so happy that they could be a support for somebody else who might be just like kind of coming to terms with their identity or doesn't have anyone they can talk to, you know what I mean? I have a brief segue. I have a question. Has anyone here online dated? Do you feel, how do you find your experiences?